everyone. Today I have an announcement for you. I'm launching a podcast and I'm so excited to tell you all about it, especially because this podcast kind of originated from this channel. So the podcast is called Indiness. It's live right now and I'll put all the links below. It's available, I know, on Spotify, but also some other places. So I'll put a list below of where you can get it and some links. So this podcast is all about celebrating independent, creative, small businesses because it's not easy being an indie, and I have wanted for a long time to put together a podcast that acts as a sort of information and support and all of that stuff through sharing stories of our own indie business experiences. Now, this, as I say, came from this channel. If you followed me on here for a while, you might have seen that periodically I interview other creatives. And if you go onto my homepage, there's a playlist of indie interviews, which is the name I gave it on here. And you can look back, there's some great interviews on here. And so predominantly I've spoken to authors, but I have also spoken to a dancer, an artist and a fabric designer. So there's a few other bits and pieces in there. And what would happen is I've been making those since I started this channel, and every time I would film an interview and I'd be editing it and I'd feel so excited about what we talked about, and then I'd do a couple of interviews and then I would sort of stop and not do any for a little while, because it would always be, right, I'm going to do this monthly and it's going to be a thing, it's going to be a big feature on this channel. And I'd do a couple and just kind of go, yeah, it doesn't quite work, because those interviews are quite chatty. And I feel like YouTube is better for just slightly shorter content. And I feel like those long reflective discussions belong in an audio format. Right from the start, every time I would edit one, I'd think this is a great podcast. But what I was missing was what went around the interview. So I'd want the interview to be on there, but there's got to be more to it than that. And it's only recently that all those jigsaw pieces have fitted together of how will the rest of the podcast look. So there's 2 episodes right now for you to go and have a look at, and those are sort of introductory episodes where I talk about what the podcast will be like and introduce myself a little bit. And those 2 episodes that are already up, the interviews in those are the indie interviews that I did this year. So Kirsten McNeil and Rhiannon Thomas. All of the indie interviews on here are great, and I really recommend that you check out that playlist if you would like to. But those 2 had really good audio. And so I could use the audio from those interviews in the podcast. And I decided that I wanted to have some episodes there ready and waiting for you. And also those were really great chats that work so well for what I want this podcast to be. So I spoke to Kirsten and Rhiannon, and they both quite happy for those interviews to become part of a new podcast. So they are over there. From here onwards, the way that this is going to work is that each episode will start with me talking about what I've been working on, as well as what I've been sort of reflecting on within my indie creative business, because I feel like every month I have a kind of topic that I'm mulling over, and so I will be sort of reflecting and sharing those things in the podcast as the introduction. Then there'll be an interview with a creative person. It won't just be writers, it will be all sorts of creatives. And if you head over to my website, there's some more information. And I will be looking for people to interview. So if you feel like this is something you're excited about too, then feel free to email me and let me know why I want to speak to you. After the interview, I will then talk about things that have been inspiring me, because again, I feel like I go through phases of certain things really inspiring me. So it might be music, it might be art, it might be a particular book, or perhaps travel, or something that I would like to share with you in case you would also find that thing inspiring, or it reminds you of something that you find inspiring. And I want this podcast to be sort of sharing my experience and my stories as well as somebody else's who perhaps has a different view to me, to sort of help with ideas and inspiration, and also just to feel that we're not in this alone. You can hear about lots of other people doing things lots of different ways. And on this channel, I predominantly talk about writing. And I want to talk to other creatives. I feel like this channel, it just, you know, my audience, it's all about writing. And yeah, I feel like on the podcast, I'm able to broaden that out more and really explore the commonalities between creative indies, because there are lots. And I want to talk to people with businesses of different sizes and who've been running their business for different lengths of time. So maybe some people work completely alone, some people have employees, some people have premises, some people work with freelancers, maybe some have been doing it for years and years and years. For some people it's their only job, for others it's like a side hustle. And I just want to explore the whole experience of being an indie. So if that sounds really exciting to you, then do head over and check it out. As I say, links are below. It's called Indieness, INDIENESS. That shouldn't have been as hard as it was. Yeah, I hope you really like it. And obviously review, rate, all the things, share it, tell people about it. Yeah, and I'll see you on the podcast. Take care.